Hi everybody, welcome back. And we are looking at The Amazing Spider-Man. This is a pinup piece that I did just for fun. And if you follow me on Facebook, you've probably seen this already. I put this up there just today, just this morning. And this is Iceman, my favorite X-Man, Iceman, Spider-Man, and Firestar of the Saturday morning Marvel cartoon Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And they are fighting Video Man, who was a villain created for the specifically for the cartoon. So I don't think he ever made it into the comics. And yes, he's very 1980s. Okay, so once again, I didn't want to just drop in on a blank piece of paper, so I thought I'd share this this piece with you. And this by the way, measures 11 by 18. It's got a little half-inch border all the way around. And I'm also going to be displaying this piece this week at Fan Expo in Boston. This weekend, I will be there in Artist Alley with my Die Kitty Die co-creator Dan Parent. So if you're in the Boston area, come by and see us. Okay, now I'm going to put that aside, and here is our mission of the day, and we are looking at Reggie. And if you've seen my previous videos, the last two videos, I penciled Reggie and I inked him. So he's more than dry by now because I penciled and inked him last week. So he's been sitting, he's dry. I've erased him. He's also on, as usual, a nice hard piece of Bristol paper that can stand up to the markers that I'm going to use to color him. By the way, even though this Bristol is nice, I'm still using a piece, and you can see it's a little bit marked up already, piece of scrap paper underneath Reggie, just so I don't, because even though the Bristol can hold up to the markers pretty well, there is the chance of some bleed through. So I want to make sure I get all the eraser hairs away. So they're gone. Otherwise, the eraser hairs can contaminate your colors. But yeah, the Bristol with some scrap paper underneath to prevent any kind of bleed through, because you just never know. Sometimes, even though Bristol is pretty good, sometimes it does let some color get by. Okay, so Reggie is going to be colored using mostly my chart pack markers, which are these nice big thick markers. And I'm going to start with the flesh, and I start with the flesh because, you know, I don't want the flesh to be contaminated by other colors. And sometimes if I added other colors first, you know, sometimes the flesh, some of it might bleed into the flesh tone. So what I'm doing now, I'm using the flesh colored marker. There it is. The flesh colored marker. What I'm doing is I'm hitting up the dark areas, what I think, anywhere where I think the flesh would be a little bit darker, say down the side of his head, inside his ear, maybe alongside his nose, under his nose, his dimple, maybe the tops of his cheeks, underneath his lip, probably underneath his jaw. You can see one of the nice things about these markers is they have this nice bevel tip, which lets me do some fine work, but it also lets me get in there and cover a lot of ground too with that nice thick tip. Okay, so that's the flesh color. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the pale flesh, and I'm going to uncap that. And what I'm going to do is take the pale flesh and I'm going to go right over some of that flesh. And notice I'm working from top to bottom, and that just helps all of the color that I'm putting down now, every stroke, just sear with each other. So that means, because these markers do blend. Sometimes they blend quite a bit. But doing it this way helps that each stroke will kind of bleed into each other. You know, I'm not going back and forth, you know, like I'm scribbling with crayons here. I'm laying down. I'm also trying to cover as much ground as I can with a single stroke. So I'm laying that down and going over everything, everywhere that there's flesh showing. I'm going to go in with the pale flesh. Okay, so I'm pretty much done with the pale flesh. One thing I want to point out is markers are like any wet medium, and they will change as they dry. So you may look at Reggie's face and he may look a little splotchy right now. That's okay. You know, when he dries, he will probably dry a lot more evenly. In fact, what I may want to do is I may want to go back to the flesh, my darker of the flesh tones. I may go back and actually beef up some of those accents that I put in before, because already they are getting kind of light. So I may just want to punch those up a little bit, like so. And what I may also want to do is use my, where is that? My blush colored Copic. Actually, I'll use my flesh colored Copic, which is a little bit of a rosier flesh tone. And that lets me heat up those accents a little bit more. So his cheeks will look a little rosier. His chin will look a little rosier. And these accents just won't fade as much as when they dry. Okay, so just here and there. It gives it a nice little mottled look. Okay. All right. Now Reggie's got that. He's got those highlights in his hair, and I'm gonna go with my Copic Cobalt Blue. I'm using the Copic because that soft tip on the Copic, that soft brush-like tip, just lets me do a little bit more of a brushier stroke, of a softer. See, I could flick and get that kind of thick to thin stroke in there. And I will just leave him like that. Okay. Now I'm going to go to my Chart Pack red marker. Okay, cadmium red marker. I'm going to give Reggie a red shirt. And now I've got a bit of a lucky break in that I usually ink heavy with the Archie characters. Because they're so cartoony, they lend themselves to having a nice thick outline like you see along Reggie's jaw here. And I say I'm lucky because that kind of helps me out, because sometimes when you go in, like I said, there's a little bit of bleeding that may happen with these colors. So when I lay this down, and as I'm coloring his shirt collar, there may be some bleeding that's going on, and what's happening is it might just be bleeding into that black line. So if it's bleeding, we're not really seeing it. So that's good. Now again, I lay down a stroke, and notice I overlap the preceding stroke that I just laid down, and that's going to help me sear each stroke together. It will minimize that streakiness that you get. So you can see it. I'll do it again so you can see it. See, lay down a stroke, another one, another one, another one. Over here on this shoulder, well, let me see. Let me get that on camera. On this shoulder, lay down a stroke, another stroke, another stroke. And you may see the strokes right now, but once this dries, again, you probably won't. And then down at the bottom here, where we get to my signature, I just want this to just kind of diffuse, just sort of blur out. So I'm not gonna be too neat about it. There it goes. Okay, so now Reggie is in color. I want to give Reggie a nice background field, a little bit of background color, so he's not just all white. So I'm going to use my cadmium yellow. Okay, and this will be easy because it's just a little bit of a background field. So what I'm going to do, just brush off some hairs and dust, blow some of it off. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around. Again, I'm pretty lucky that Reggie has so much black because that again serves as a buffer. Like right around here, it gets a little dangerous because I'm coming up to his face, but the black outline, that gives me a little safety zone. And here, I'm not going to be as neat again because I just like the sketchiness to happen in this area. I like to keep the figure nice and polished, but then the background, I just get nice and loose and very sketchy with it. Around here. It also helps to have some decent ink when you're doing this. You know, I didn't ink him with shoddy ink that's going to bleed into my colors, and I let it dry. You know, it's had plenty of time to dry, so he isn't contaminating, getting my yellow dirty. Again, just finding my way around, not being too super neat, and just having that nice sketchy free look to the color. Okay, and that just about does it for Reggie. So hopefully the yellow doesn't look as dingy as it's looking on my viewfinder. In person, it's a lot more vibrant. Take my word for it. Actually, there's a little spot of flesh that's showing. I'm going to take my pale flesh and just hit that up right there. Okay, and there we go. And that'll dry. If I need to go back and do the shape, there we go. It'll all dry nice and seamless. Okay, so there we go. We've got Reggie. He is done. Reggie was a commission, a private commission. Somebody reached out to me and asked me for a Reggie, and you know, I was happy to do it for them, and I thought it would make a nice video to show for you guys. So there he is. If anybody would like a Reggie of their own or any other character, please reach out to me at Fernando Ruiz everybody at gmail.com, and we could work something out. So that's Reggie in color. And that's it. If anybody has any questions on any of the markers, the techniques that I use, please let me know in the comments below. And as always, please click like, subscribe, hit that bell, and share. You know, show this off to people you think would be interested. I'd always love to get new subscribers. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody, and I will see you at the next one. Bye-bye.